for refusing to pay for my family's cruise after they excluded me and expected me to babysit? I'm Amelia, 33, and in my family, being the dependable daughter has always come with a price tag nobody wants to acknowledge. I'm the one who remembers Dad's medication schedule, brings extra snacks for my sister's kids, checks whether restaurants can handle my nephew's allergy, and reads reservation emails all the way to the bottom. I'm also the one who somehow ends up clearing plates while everyone else is still sitting at the table laughing. For years, I told myself that was just how I showed love. Then my parents' anniversary dinner made it clear that they didn't see it as love. They saw it as a service they were entitled to. My older sister, Jenna, is 37 and has 2 children with her husband, Owen. I absolutely love those kids. I've gone to school concerts, built blanket forts in my living room, learned which dinosaur facts can end an argument, and kept a spare inhaler in my kitchen because Jenna once forgot to pack one. When the kids were younger, I offered to help often. Jenna would ask if I could watch them for 2 hours while she ran errands, and I usually said yes. The problem was that 2 hours slowly became 5. Then 5 became an entire Saturday. The first few times she apologized. After that she stopped. One afternoon she dropped them off at 11 and said, "I'll be back by 1, 2 at the latest." 2:30 I texted her. "Are you close?" She replied 20 minutes later. "Still out. They're good with you." That wasn't an answer, so I called. She let it ring twice and sent me another text. "Can't talk. Just feed them if they're hungry." She showed up a little after 7, carrying shopping bags and an iced coffee. "You said 2 hours, I told her. She kissed the kids on their heads and said, "You know how things get." "No, I know how clocks work." She rolled her eyes. "You don't get how exhausting it is." That became one of her favorite lines. I didn't understand because I wasn't a parent. I was lucky because I could go home to quiet. I had free time because my calendar didn't include children. Somehow my child-free life was treated as a family resource. My mother, Carol, encouraged it. Whenever I asked for more notice, she softened her voice and called me honey. "Family helps family," she would say. My father, Robert, rarely asked me for anything directly. He preferred to weigh in on the argument and explain why I should give in. "Don't upset your mother. Jenna's under a lot of pressure. It's easier for you than it is for them." My younger brother, Caleb, was 29 and lived as though every family event came with an invisible sponsor. He forgot to send his share for birthday gifts, showed up late to dinners, and had a strange habit of disappearing when the bill arrived. If I covered him, he called me a lifesaver. If I asked to be paid back, he acted like I had turned a family dinner into an audit. Amelia's making a documentary again. He once joked when I reminded him that he still owed me for Dad's birthday dinner. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, which I regret now. A few months before my parents' anniversary, Mom started talking about doing something special. They had been married for 40 years, and she wanted a real family memory. Not another dinner where everyone went home after cake. She brought up a cruise. I had never taken one, but I liked the idea. Mom asked me to compare packages because, in her words, I was so good at details. That should have been my first warning. For 2 weeks, I checked dates, cabin types, cancellation policies, meal plans, and transportation options. I sent her 3 choices with simple cost breakdowns. She picked a 7-night cruise the following month because it fit everyone's schedule and still had refundable cabin deposits before the final payment date. One night, she called me sounding flustered. "The cabins are going to be released if we don't put down the deposits tonight," she said. "Your father's card is acting up, and Jenna needs to move some money around. Could you cover it for now?" "How much?" $4,800. I nearly said no. That was not a casual amount of money. Then she added, "Everyone will pay you back. Promise. I don't want to lose the group rate." "Who is everyone?" "Your father and me, Jenna and Owen, Caleb. Paula's handling her own cabin. We'll sort out the shares this weekend." I asked, "And my spot?" "Oh, we'll finalize cabin assignments after the deposits go through. You may end up sharing with Caleb or we'll move things around. Don't worry, honey. You're the one making this possible." That sentence did exactly what she intended. I paid the deposit. The confirmation went to my email because the booking account had been created under my name, while I was comparing packages. The charge stayed on my credit card. Mom sent a heart emoji and wrote, "You saved the trip." That weekend passed without reimbursement. Then another week passed. When I asked in the family group chat, Mom wrote, "We're sorting it out." Caleb responded with a salute emoji. Jenna didn't respond at all. I told myself the anniversary dinner would be when everyone settled up. Mom had reserved a private area at a restaurant. There were printed menus, white tablecloths, candles and small glass holders, and a large cake waiting on a side table. Aunt Paula was there with 2 cousins, along with several relatives who had apparently been invited on the cruise. I arrived early because Mom had asked me to check the seating cards. Of course she had. I corrected 2 place settings, gave the restaurant the cake knife Mom had forgotten, and confirmed that my nephew's dessert was safe even though the children were spending the evening with Owen's mother. When Jenna arrived, she handed me her coat without breaking conversation with Mom. Caleb showed up 20 minutes late and got a round of cheers because he had brought flowers. I had ordered the flowers. He had picked them up. At dinner, Mom was glowing. Dad kept reaching for her hand. For a while I let myself enjoy it. Whatever else was wrong in our family, 40 years together mattered to them, and I wanted the night to be good. After the entrees were cleared, Mom tapped her spoon against her glass. Everyone turned toward her. "Robert and I are so grateful to have all of you here," she began. 40 years is a long time, and what matters most to us is family. She paused for effect. Mom loved a polished announcement. "So next month the whole family is going on a cruise." The room erupted. Aunt Paula clapped. Caleb whistled. Jenna hugged Owen. 2 cousins started talking over each other about excursions. I felt a rush of relief. The money issue suddenly seemed less irritating because I thought I was included. I smiled at Mom and said, "That sounds amazing." "It will be," she said. Then she reached down beside her chair, pulled out a thin folder, and slid a sheet of paper across the table toward me. First, I assumed it was an itinerary. It was titled Kids Week with Aunt Amelia. Underneath were school pickup times, allergy notes, homework reminders, lunch preferences, emergency contacts, the pediatrician's phone number, bedtime routines, and a note in bold that said, "Please keep screens off after 8 p.m. I stared at it. "What is this?" Mom's smile didn't change. "You're not coming on the cruise, honey. Someone reliable has to stay with the kids." For a second, I honestly thought I had misunderstood her. The room was still noisy, and maybe she meant I wasn't taking the first shuttle or wasn't going on a certain excursion. I looked at Jenna. She gave me a little shrug as if Mom had just assigned me the window seat. "The kids will be more comfortable with you," she said. "You planned for me to keep them for 7 nights?" 8 technically, Jenna said. "Because we need to leave the afternoon before." A few people chuckled. I looked back at the schedule. There was even a box labeled Sunday meal prep. This was not a recent idea. Someone had spent time crafting it. "Where is my cabin?" I asked. Mom's expression tightened slightly. "There isn't one." The room quieted in pieces. Not completely, but enough that people nearby were listening. Caleb leaned back in his chair. "Come on, Ames. You're the only one we actually trust." "That's not the compliment you think it is." Jenna laughed too quickly. "It's not like you need a vacation from parenting." Owen looked down at his plate. I asked him, "Did you know about this?" He rubbed his thumb along the edge of his napkin. "Jenna said it was handled." "Handled," I repeated. Dad lowered his voice in the way he did when he wanted to sound reasonable without being fair. "Let's not make this a scene. It's your mother's special week." "I'm not making anything. I'm asking why I paid the deposit for a family cruise I'm not invited to." Mom blinked. Caleb stopped smiling. Jenna said, "You didn't pay for the whole cruise." "I paid $4,800 in deposits." "That was temporary," Mom said. "It's still on my card. We were going to reimburse you." "When?" Mom's cheeks reddened. "This isn't the time. You chose the time when you handed me a childcare schedule in front of everyone." Aunt Paula leaned forward. "Wait. Amelia isn't going." Mom turned toward her. "Cruises aren't really Amelia's thing." That was the first direct lie of the night. I had told Mom twice that I was excited because I had never been on one. "I never said that." Mom's smile disappeared. Jenna crossed her arms. We thought you'd want to help. You planned my entire week without asking me. You love the kids. I do. That doesn't make me unpaid staff. Dad sighed. No one said you were staff. I lifted the schedule. Staff usually gets asked before receiving an 8-day assignment. A cousin near the end of the table muttered, "This is awkward." Caleb heard him and said, "It doesn't have to be. Amelia just likes turning everything into a principal." That almost got me. Not enough to make me shout, but enough to make my hands cold. I looked around the table and realized nobody seemed surprised. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others looked confused by my reaction, not by what had been done to me. They already knew. I set the schedule beside my plate and opened the cruise confirmation on my phone. The booking portal showed the group reservation under my email. 4 cabin holds had been secured using my card. 3 were for my parents, Jenna and Owen, and Caleb. Aunt Paula had booked separately. There was no passenger profile for me. No cabin assignment. Not even a placeholder. I turned the screen toward Mom. I'm not available to babysit during the vacation I apparently helped pay for but wasn't invited to. She pressed her lips together. Amelia. If I'm not family enough for the cruise, I'm not family enough to finance it or cover childcare. Dad's voice hardened. You need to calm down. I am calm. That was true. I was hurt, but I was not out of control. I knew that if I raised my voice, they would make my reaction the story. So I stood, placed enough cash beside my plate to cover my meal, and folded the babysitting schedule in half. Mom stared at me. You're leaving? Yes. Before the cake? I almost laughed. Instead I said, enjoy your celebration. Jenna called after me. So you're really going to punish the kids over this? I turned back. No. I'm refusing to let their parents volunteer me. I walked out before anyone could answer. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with the doors locked and both hands on the steering wheel. I didn't cry right away. I felt too alert, as if my body were waiting for the next demand. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Mom, please come back inside. Dad, your mother is crying. Caleb, great job making tonight about you. Jenna, we need to talk like adults. That last one almost impressed me. I put my phone face down and drove home. The first person to call me the next morning was Aunt Paula. I let it go to voicemail because I assumed she was calling to tell me I had overreacted. Her message was casual. Hi, Amelia. I'm sorry about last night. I just wanted to check whether you need me to bring over any toys or groceries before the cruise week, since you offered to keep the kids. Your mom said you volunteered because cruises aren't really your thing. Call me when you can. I replayed the message. Then I called her. She answered immediately. Honey, are you okay? Did Mom tell you I offered? There was a pause. Yes. Weeks ago. What exactly did she say? She said you preferred staying home and that you loved being the fun aunt. I thought it was generous, but I didn't think it was strange because she made it sound like you had suggested it. I found out at dinner. Another pause, longer this time. Oh. Did everyone think I already knew? I did. Who else? I don't know. Probably most of us. That explained the lack of surprise. Aunt Paula sounded unsettled. Maybe Carol misunderstood something you said. She handed me a printed schedule. I saw that. And I paid the deposits. What? That was when her tone changed completely. I told her I would call her back later. Then I made coffee, opened my laptop and went through everything. I did not rely on memory. My family had a talent for turning clear events into fog once consequences appeared. I saved the reservation confirmation. I downloaded the deposit receipt. I took screenshots of the booking portal showing the passengers assigned to each cabin, and the empty space where my name should have been. I searched my messages with Mom. The deposit request was exactly as I remembered it. Can you help with the cruise deposit for now? Everyone will pay you back. A few messages later I had asked, and my cabin gets finalized after? She had replied, yes, honey. We'll sort rooms after the holds are secured. Then I searched Jenna's name. Most of our texts were about the children, but one thread stood out. 2 weeks earlier, she had sent me the school calendar and asked whether I had plans during the cruise dates. At the time, I assumed she was checking whether the trip worked for me. I I had replied, nothing fixed yet. I'm keeping those dates open until Mom confirms the cruise. Jenna had written, perfect. That word felt different now. I still didn't have proof that the setup was deliberate until Mom called later that afternoon. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Amelia, I don't know why you're doing this. Everyone was embarrassed. We knew you would understand once we explained it. Please don't make decisions while you're emotional. A minute later, Aunt Paula texted me. Call me. I think Jenna accidentally sent me something meant for your mother. When I called, Paula sounded angry. Jenna started a group message about you, she said. She meant to include Carol and Robert, but she included me because our names are next to each other in her contacts. What did she send? Paula forwarded the screenshots. The first message from Jenna said, did Amelia cancel anything yet? Mom, you should have waited until after dessert. She always gets dramatic when she feels cornered. Mom replied, the whole point was to tell her in front of everyone. She won't say no when people are counting on her. Then Dad, she'll cool off. Just make it sound like we need her. She always caves. Jenna answered, if she says no early, we'll have to hire someone and we can't afford both childcare and the cruise. There it was. Not confusion. Not poor communication. A plan. They had delayed telling me because they knew I might refuse if I had time to think. They had lied to relatives because a room full of witnesses was supposed to pressure me into accepting. They had used my card to hold cabins while knowing I did not have one. I read the messages twice, then saved them in 3 places. Aunt Paula said, Amelia, I'm sorry. I believed your mother. I believed her too. What are you going to do? For most of my life, my answer would have been to wait until everyone calmed down, accept a weak apology, and find a compromise that cost me more than anyone else. This time I said, I'm going to stop making this affordable for them. The cruise deposits were still refundable, because the final payment date was 6 days away. The reservation terms were clear. The cardholder and booking account owner could release the cabin holds before that date. I called the cruise line, verified my identity, and asked exactly what I was legally able to do. I did not cancel Aunt Paula's reservation because it was separate and paid by her. I did not touch any excursion anyone had booked independently. I released the 4 cabin holds tied to my account and card. The deposits were credited back to me. The representative explained that the passengers could create new bookings under their own names, but the promotional group rate and the held cabin locations were no longer guaranteed. Then I created an itemized ledger. Mom and Dad's share. Jenna and Owen's share. Caleb's share. A smaller amount from a previous family dinner Caleb had still never paid. I sent each adult an individual message rather than starting a group argument. Mine to Mom and Dad said, I have released the cabin holds attached to my account and card within the refundable period. I will not finance a vacation I was excluded from. I will not babysit during those dates. The remaining amount you owe me for anniversary expenses is itemized below. Payment is due Friday. I attached a Zelle request. To Jenna I wrote, I will not provide childcare during the cruise dates. I did not volunteer. Do not tell the children I canceled their trip or blame them for an adult decision. Future childcare must be requested in advance and agreed to by me in writing. I will not accept last-minute drop-offs. I attached her portion of the deposit ledger and a Venmo request for 2 earlier expenses she had promised to repay. To Caleb, your cruise hold was released with the others. You can rebook under your own card. Your unpaid share is itemized below. Please pay by Friday. He responded first. Are you serious? I wrote back. Yes. Then the calls began. Mom called 4 times in 10 minutes. Dad called twice. Jenna called once and left a 3-minute voicemail that started angry, became tearful, and ended angry again. You don't understand how expensive childcare is, she said. The sitter I called wants $26 an hour, and that's before overnight fees. We thought you'd want time with the kids. They love you. They're going to be heartbroken when they find out you're the reason we can't go. I saved the voicemail. Caleb texted. You nuked the whole trip over one misunderstanding. I sent him the screenshot where Dad wrote she always caves. Caleb replied, here we go. Amelia's making a documentary. I wrote, pay your own deposit. He did not respond. Mom eventually left a voicemail in a low, wounded voice. You're humiliating your mother over money. I don't know where this cruelty is coming from. I called her back. She answered on the first ring. Thank God. Amelia, listen. No, Mom. You listen. You told people I volunteered. You told me my cabin would be assigned after I paid. You planned to announce the babysitting in public because you thought I would be too embarrassed to refuse. We knew you'd understand. That is not the same as asking. The children need someone safe. Then their parents need to arrange safe childcare. You're their aunt. And Jenna is their mother. Mom inhaled sharply. This family has always supported you. I looked around my quiet kitchen and tried to remember the last time support had come toward me without a task attached. What support are you talking about? That's a terrible thing to say. It's a real question. She changed direction. Your father and I only get one 40th anniversary. And I only get one life that belongs to me. You're being dramatic. You created a public trap because you thought I'd cave. I'm refusing. This could have been handled privately. You announced it at a restaurant. She began crying. I don't mean loud theatrical sobbing. My mother was more effective than that. Her voice went small and trembled in exactly the right places. I wanted one beautiful week with my family. You planned a week without me. You know what I mean. Yes, I said. I do. Then I ended the call. The next several days were uncomfortable. Dad sent a message saying he was disappointed in how transactional I had become. I sent back the receipt for the deposit and asked when he planned to reimburse me. He did not answer. Jenna sent pictures of the kids eating pancakes with the caption, "They keep asking when they get their week with you." I called her instead of texting. Do not use them to pressure me. They're excited. Because you told them something I never agreed to. You spend time with them all the time. Because I choose to. Choice is the part you keep removing. She went quiet. Then she said, "You're lucky you can just go home to peace and quiet." I'm not lucky because I don't have children. I made choices. You made choices too. That's easy for you to say. No, it's just hard for you to hear. Owen took the phone from her. His voice was careful. Amelia, I'm not trying to get in the middle. You've been in the middle. You were going on the cruise. I thought Jenna had discussed it with you. At dinner. He exhaled. No. Did you know I paid the deposits? Another pause. I knew you helped. That is not what I asked. I knew you fronted some money. And did you think I had a cabin? I assumed you did. Then why did you think I was keeping the kids? He had no answer. Finally, he said, I should have asked more questions. Yes. That was the closest thing to accountability I had heard from any of them. By Friday, Aunt Paula had paid me for the anniversary flowers even though she did not owe me. I returned it immediately. She called and said, Then let me do something useful. I'm going to talk to your father. You don't have to fight my battle. I'm not. I'm correcting a lie I helped spread. Dad sent a partial reimbursement that evening. The note on the Zelle payment said, for the sake of peace. I almost rejected it because the wording annoyed me, but it was money he owed, not an apology. I accepted it and updated the ledger. Caleb paid nothing. Jenna paid nothing. Mom sent a message saying they were working on options. Those options apparently included blaming me in front of more relatives. The following weekend, Aunt Paula hosted a family barbecue. I considered skipping it, but I had already promised my niece I would bring the strawberry cookies she liked. I also refused to disappear and let my mother control the narrative. I arrived with the cookies and a pasta salad. The kids ran to me before I made it through the gate. Are we having our sleepover for 8 days? My nephew asked. I crouched so we were eye level. We're not doing an 8-day sleepover. His face fell. Why? Because the grown-ups made plans before asking me. That's not your fault. Can we still do movie night sometime? Absolutely. Jenna was standing a few feet away. She heard every word. You could have just said yes, she muttered as I stood. You could have asked. She rolled her eyes and walked away. For the first hour everyone behaved. People ate burgers from paper plates, the kids chased each other around the yard, and Caleb told loud stories near the grill as if he hadn't ignored 3 payment requests. Then Mom decided she had an audience. She was sitting in a folding chair with several relatives around her when she said, loudly enough for half the yard to hear, "We may not be taking the anniversary trip after all." Cousin asked why. Mom looked at me. All we wanted was one special week, and Amelia decided to punish us. The conversations nearby slowed. Dad said, "Carol, maybe not now." That was not him defending me. That was him trying to avoid discomfort. Mom continued. She canceled the reservations without discussing it. "I discussed it at dinner," I said. "You stormed out." I left after saying I would not babysit or pay. One of my older relatives frowned at me. "It's just a week. Why is this such a big deal?" Another said, "You don't have kids. Surely you could help your sister." Caleb smirked. "Careful." Amelia brought exhibits. That time I did not laugh. I set down my drink and took out my phone. "Actually, yes." Mom's face changed. "Amelia, don't. You brought it up. This is private family business. You told the family I ruined your trip. They deserve the full version." Jenna stood near the patio door with her arms crossed. Owen was beside her, looking at the ground. I opened the deposit receipt first. I paid $4,800 in refundable deposits because Mom said everyone would reimburse me, and my cabin assignment would be finalized later. I showed the confirmation to Aunt Paula, who passed the phone to the relative beside her. The booking had cabins for my parents, Jenna and Owen and Caleb. There was no passenger reservation for me. Mom said. We were still working out details. I held up the folded babysitting schedule. I had brought the original. This includes school pickups, allergy notes, homework, lunches, bedtime routines, emergency contacts, and screen limits. It was finished before the dinner. A cousin asked, "When did Amelia agree to it?" "She knew we needed help," Mom said. "That wasn't the question," Aunt Paula replied. Mom looked at her. "Paula, please." Aunt Paula's voice stayed level. "Did Amelia actually offer? Or did you decide for her?" Mom's eyes filled. "We knew she would help because she loves the children." "I do love them," I said. "That's why I'm not teaching them that love means using someone until they break." Jenna scoffed. "No one is using you." I opened the screenshots Aunt Paula had forwarded. "I'm going to read 4 messages." Mom stood up. "You have no right." They were about me. The yard was almost completely silent now. Even the kids had moved toward the far side of the lawn because Owen quietly directed them to a game near the fence. I read Jenna's message first. "Don't tell Amelia until dinner. If she says no early, we'll have to hire someone." Jenna's face drained. Then Mom's. The whole point was to tell her in front of everyone. She won't say no when people are counting on her. Dad closed his eyes. I read his message last. "Just make it sound like we need her. She always caves." When I looked up, no one spoke for several seconds. Aunt Paula turned toward Dad. "You wrote that." He rubbed his forehead. "It was taken out of context." "What context makes it better?" I asked. He looked at me then away. Mom said, "We were trying to avoid conflict." "No," I said. "You were trying to remove my chance to say no." Jenna's voice rose. "Fine. Yes, we waited. Because we knew you'd make it difficult. By not agreeing, you don't understand what it costs to find overnight childcare for 2 kids. I understand exactly what it costs. That's why you tried to make me do it for free. It's not like we can afford childcare and the cruise." The second she said it, the argument ended. "Everyone knew it," I said. "Then you couldn't afford the cruise." Owen looked down. Caleb tried to rescue the mood with a laugh. "So that's it? Vacation court is adjourned." Aunt Paula turned on him. "How much did you pay toward the trip?" His smile disappeared. "That's between me and them." "So nothing," I said. He shoved his hands into his pockets. "I was going to. With my deposit. It was temporary. Everything is temporary when I pay for it." One of my cousins asked Mom whether she had really told everyone I volunteered. Mom did not answer directly. She said, "I was protecting the anniversary. I knew Amelia would come through." Aunt Paula shook her head. Using the reliable one is still using someone. That line landed harder than anything I had said. Mom sat back down. Dad stared at his paper plate. Jenna went inside. Owen followed her after a moment. A few relatives apologized to me before I left. Not all of them. One older uncle said I still should have handled it privately. I reminded him that I had canceled only the reservations attached to my own account and card. He said, "Still, family matters more than money." I replied, "Then they should not have needed my money to decide whether I counted as family." He had nothing else to say. The cruise did not happen as planned. My parents could have rebooked, but the promotional rate was gone and the final payment deadline was close. Once everyone had to pay the real amount under their own cards, enthusiasm faded quickly. Caleb said the new single occupancy price was insane and backed out. Jenna and Owen priced licensed overnight childcare, then considered bringing the kids. That increased the cruise cost and required a different cabin category. They backed out too. Aunt Paula canceled her separate cabin after telling Mom she no longer felt comfortable celebrating a trip built around a lie. She received most of her money back under her own cancellation terms. My parents eventually replaced the cruise with a 3-night hotel stay they paid for themselves. Mom told several people I had forced them to downsize. Aunt Paula corrected her every time. Dad reimbursed the rest of his and Mom's deposit after Paula pressed him. There was no apology attached, but the money arrived. Caleb finally paid his share 6 weeks later when Dad refused to cover it for him. His payment note said, "Hope the investigation is closed." I replied with a thumbs up and nothing else. Jenna took longer. About a month after the barbecue, she sent me a message late at night. "I didn't realize how much everyone put on you. I still think canceling was extreme, but I get why you were angry. It was not a perfect apology. It was barely an apology at all." I wrote back, "I wasn't angry because you needed help. I was angry because you decided my answer for me and used a public dinner to trap me. I love your kids. From now on ask. Do not assume." She responded the next morning. "Okay. Our relationship is still strained, but she follows the rule now. The first time she asked me to babysit after everything, she texted 4 days in advance. 'Are you free Saturday from 2 to 6? Totally okay if not.' I was free, but I still waited before answering. Not to punish her. I wanted to make sure I was saying yes because I wanted to, not because the old reflex had kicked in. I agreed. She picked the kids up at 5:55. That may sound small, but in our family it was practically a structural change. I also stopped advancing money without a written repayment date. When Mom asked me to reserve a holiday rental several months later, I sent her the link and said she could book it under her own card. She replied, "It would be easier if you handled it." I wrote, "Easier for whom?" She booked it herself. The final conversation about the cruise happened over the phone. Mom called and said, "You made me look terrible in front of the whole family." I was washing dishes when she said it. In the past, I would have put everything down and spent an hour trying to calm her. This time I dried my hands and leaned against the counter. "You made choices that looked terrible when people saw them. You could have protected me. You wanted me to protect you from the truth after you used me. I am still your mother. And I am still your daughter. Not your wallet. Not your scheduler. Not your emergency childcare plan." She was quiet. Then she said, "I don't know who you've become. I'm the same person. I just say no now." She ended the call without saying goodbye. We still speak. I still attend some family dinners. I still take my niece and nephew to movies, help Dad when I genuinely choose to, and bring Mom the dessert she likes on her birthday. But I no longer clear every plate while everyone else keeps laughing. I no longer cover Caleb's share. I no longer accept children at my door without prior agreement. And I no longer confuse being needed with being valued. I didn't cancel a family vacation. I canceled the version of family where I paid to be excluded. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.